Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Be a Better Game Master YouTube channel. This right here is what's called the Absolute Tabletop Challenge. I don't know if you remember, a long time ago, basically, the rules are you play with people that you've never played with before, or you haven't met. Well, I don't think I've ever played with any of these people. I think Austin, that's a lie. We played a little bit. But I have met two of these people by this point, and we're just going to get started. No idea what's going to happen in this game. But if you're interested in the player handout that I gave to these guys, it's in the video description underneath. It's just a PDF that should work if you click on the link. But let's get started. Eight days have passed since the winds departed. 8 days have come and gone before the warning came. You hear crunching, fast crunching in soft, moist earth. You hear hard breathing as whoever owns these footsteps sprints with all of their might through the forest. You see them ducking underneath thickety branches of crimson leaves, struggling to complete their mission. At last, after what seems like forever, the long sprint, the dwarf emerges from the woods into a clearing. In front of him is a large, pale wall. Tall, but not so much wide. The palisade of Outpost Red. He sees a figure atop it. Equus, you're looking down and you've just seen and been stunned as this figure has broken through the forest. He stares up at you, this dwarf of Sur Salin, and then his eyes roll back in his head and he falls down, face first into the dirt. Someone stands up right next to you, Equus, and says, "Hey, what should we do?" And he grabs a rifle.
Equus turns, his mail chinking, adjusting his large shield with the shadowed horse and rider over a gray field. What do you think we should do? We should go down and get him. Bring him in. Interrogate him.
Of course, sir, yes. And he shakes himself off as if he's been a fool. He runs, he climbs down the ladder from the top of the palisade. There's not much standing space up there. Only one little segment where you can really stand on and look out. But he runs out in front of the fence, the palisade, which takes a moment. There's no gate on the northern palisade of Outpost Red. He runs across a grim trench and around, and there he is after a long moment, standing above this dwarf. The dwarf whispers something in his ear. He stands up. Sorry, the person that was working with you, Equus. Who is this, by the way? Is this human? Is this someone who?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
This is a young man, just barely beginning his time to shave. He's got a tiny bit of scruff in his face. I've kind of taken him under my wing to protect him, to see that he maybe survives the pain of all the fighting that's been going on. I watch him closely from up above, holding my spear closely. His name is Thomas.
Thomas, excellent. Thomas Porter has been in Sur Salin for a very short time, and Outpost Red is basically the first place he came. Equus, you've groomed him. But now, when he looks up at you, you see a different sort of face. It's the face of fear. The moments that pass from this moment forth are difficult to process. At first, you don't believe that the dwarf, in fact, told Thomas Porter that a host, some might call an army, is headed directly towards Outpost Red for some purpose. You drag this this dwarf into Outpost Red, and I'll show you right now kind of what the Outpost Red looks like. It's a very, very rudimentary map here, but you see over here you'll have, if you can see my cursor, this is the River Ream, the Ream River that runs along the south and west of the outpost. Here at the top, this black line is that palisade that I described earlier. But it is incomplete. This brown area here, this is a trench that was dug to further fortify the location. And it is called part of the Grim Palisade. It's filled with the bones and corpses of myriad beasts from the Crimson Wood that attempted to get into the outpost or whatnot. In the center, you'll have a statue of a figure, Belle Red herself, the first adventurer to set foot in Outpost Red and settle it permanently. This person is dragged toward the statue, barely breathing. And all three of you, being the kind of people currently in charge of Outpost Red, see this and may commence.
Wolfgang, Roland, come, see this dwarf. He says something about a host or an army coming this way.
To me, that means that we need to immediately start looking in the opposite direction. I don't trust him.
I don't trust him either. I've never had good dealings with dwarves.
Equus stands up, looks out to the north at the palisade, then looks to the southeast, towards the ravine, the trench. We should rally who we can, set them up, get some men on the palisades, some protecting the trench. I wish we had time to finish the trench and the palisade. Damn it.
Roland eyes the palisade and the places that are available to stand, and he kind of shifts in his chain, shifts his shoulder a bit as he looks a little uncomfortable. How many riflemen do we have?
Almost immediately, someone speaks up. Just 2 squads, sir. Worth of rifles, I mean.
Wolfgang takes a look up and down the river to see if he can see anything in the distance, any clouds of dust or any sign to see how far an approaching army might be. But it's hard to make out anything at this point.
Yeah, the Crimson Wood actually is, as you look in the distance, and you even look in the sky, there is no sky. It's all a ceiling of trees, and high ceilings in some places, lower in others, and it's almost like the leaves vine their way down these white trunks of these trees, massive trees, and they just go forever into the distance. You can't really see much, but you do know that in the Crimson Wood there are many, many animals, and you can really tell if a predator is nearby by the immense amount of creatures that will just flock away from a position. You're not seeing too much of that, but as you look in the distance, all of a sudden this dwarf screams in agony, and he grabs you, Wolfgang, and he pulls you down, and he says, "My shoes! My shoes! Take them off, please!" And he reaches down, but he can't quite reach them. He seems very weak.
And after being grabbed by this dwarf, kind of brush myself off. I'm wearing clothes that at one point were rather extravagant, but spending much time traveling in them and wearing them most of the time, they've become pretty tattered, but I still attempt to take care of them as best as I can. I examine the dwarf's shoes. I can't see if anything's wrong, so I gingerly remove his laces and begin to take them off.
His screams of agony as you remove his shoes are the source is revealed. It's blisters all over almost every inch of his feet. In fact, a piece of his heel, the flesh comes right off as you remove the boot, as if it's been fused to the inside of the shoe. And that screaming agony actually turns into some relief as you do so. But you do realize this person has been through quite a journey to reach you. He is heavily breathing as he looks between Wolfgang to Equus and then to Roland.
Roland kneels down next to him, and he stares into the man's eyes for a moment and says, "Why did you come here? To warn us, yes, but why?"
5 days ahead of him, I escaped. A prisoner of Astracor. A prisoner of Corin Colossus herself. I was not the only one, but I was the one that got away. Water. Water.
"Get this man water!" And he turns to one of the random onlookers and just kind of bellows the order and turns back.
And they do.
"It's all right. If you're telling the truth, it's all right. We're not going to hurt you."
You hurt me, and he grabs you, Roland. He tries to pull you in closer, and he says, "They're coming. Hundreds of them. Hundreds of them." And he, his eyes stare at you for a moment, Roland, and then, as if instantly, they're looking through you at some distant, fearful background that can't exist behind you. He's just imagining that fear is overwhelming him.
Yeah, Roland reaches out and just slaps him and says, "Pull yourself together. Even if there's hundreds, they'll have to go through us."
He looks at you and go ahead and give me a persuasion check if you could.
Sure. Ooh, that's a 19 on the die. And I do not have persuasion, but I have a +2, so 21.
For the first time, you see a smile actually crease over the face of the dwarf, and he says, "They'll have to go through you." And he collapses into a heap of exhausted death.
Never mind the water.
The person just brought it. He's standing there with a ladle, actually, waiting.
Roland just stands up and takes the ladle himself and just drinks it down, hands the ladle back.
So at this point, I think Wolfgang would look noticeably shaken. Wolfgang's lived a rather comfortable life up until recently in his family home. He's never seen violence such as this. He's never seen death this close. While he's seen ugly things, he's never seen anything this visceral, this real. And he's going to take a moment. Tugs at his tie and pulls himself together and tugs at the ill-fitting leather armor that he's recently donned due to necessity. Still itches.
You have a moment of quiet, and someone begins looking at you, Wolfgang, and it's you see a small family of one of the members of the outpost, one of the adventurers who live here now. You know, some people bring their families, and you'll see a hill dwarven woman, and she has no children, but her and her niece are kind of standing there looking to you, and she looks at your clothes for a moment there, Wolfgang, and then almost as if thinking, she shakes her head, and then she looks towards Roland, and she says, "We must leave, yes?"
No, this place is too valuable. We have 5 days if this man is to be believed. That's time enough to shore up our defenses. We can plant men in the trees. We can rain hell down on them. No one's taking this outpost.
I start looking around. I ask Roland and Equus. The dwarf, before he died, he mentioned a Corin Colossus. Has either of you heard of this person?
If anyone wants to, you can roll kind of that any knowledge check you'd like, and just let me know what it is in the chat, and I'll let you know what that means. The air sits still on the motionless wind, and this frost just kind of begins washing over you. This means it's getting to be late day, but it does get cold here. Colossus. Where do you recognize that name, Roland? Corin Colossus is not a name. That's a... What? But Corin. Corin rings a bell. Colossus, no, that's a taken name. Corin's original surname is Barris. Corin Barris is royalty to Sur Salin. And you know that because the history of the region is drenched in the Barris name. Multiple Khans have served, administered over their own city-states in the region, and you presume the same for her.
We may have royalty bearing down on us, boys. This may not be pretty.
Which means a larger army. Probably larger than this group of rabble could take.
Now hold on. A small number of men in a well-fortified position can hold just about anything for some amount of time. If we can give them reason to turn back, we may be able to hold off almost any assault. Now, it's going to require some damn hard work in the next 5 days, but it might be possible.
Equus has been silent. Sorry. Equus has been silent, taking in everything that's been going on, fiddling with his sword, looking over at Thomas, who he's kind of almost taking in under his wing, staring blankly at him, not to show any emotion at all, to worry him, as he's probably looking at me with a certain amount of fear, of not understanding of what's going on, especially seeing the death of the dwarf. I turn to Roland. The key words there, Roland, are a fortified place. That palisade isn't going to stop. It couldn't stop me from getting in here if I wanted to. Couldn't stop you. The bridge going over the ravine. These are easy places to be able to take in. 2 squads of gunners? And what, maybe a handful of peasants with picks and shovels? They're not going to stop anything. We need to get the people out of here, at least. Those innocents, those who do not deserve to die. We don't know why this Corin, Winds of Sur Salin, whatever the hell you're saying that she is here for. But it can't be good if she's hunting and tracking down dwarves and just crushing them beneath her boot.
Where would we bring these children? There's nothing within 5 days of here, to my knowledge. This is it.
Barker, not knowing the landscape of the area, are there any towns within range or anything that we could move out to?
You could. Here's the thing: you could probably get to the nearest town, which is Mericor, which is to the east, but it'll take you probably about 3 days to get there with a message. Well, I don't know. It depends on how you do it, but it would take, on foot as quickly as possible. It'll take you a few days to get there. You do know that they would have people that they might be willing to lend to help in the assistance of Outpost Red. You've heard of this Khan Barris, and his main method seems to revolve around decimals and dollar signs. This person is interested in the black, being in the black alone, is interested in the profit and loss sheet in front of him. And you kind of see already that he might have an interest in helping out here because Outpost Red is very, very profitable for the people who are stakeholders in it.
Well, now he's talking my language. Money. I would like to pen this gentleman a letter explaining to him the importance of Outpost Red and making sure that the families and people that know it best survive. So I will look around and ask, who is our fastest of foot?
One person looks at the dead dwarf, and actually there might be a little chuckle that's shared because these people are outlaws. They don't care.
I've got 12 gold for the man who delivers this message to the gentleman in question.
Everyone's hand shoots up. But I mean, there someone who's 900 pounds, their hand shoots up, and they wouldn't make it there in 12 days. But you easily find someone who moves forward and says, "I ran the old road in 5 days. I could run." And this this person looks relatively short, but it just seems like maybe a human of shorter stature, but lean and built for the sprint.
What do you gentlemen think? Will he do?
Roland looks him down, up and down, kind of appraising his potential ability to fight. Trying to figure out if he'd be more use here defending the outpost in case he doesn't make it, or if he'd be more likely to make it. Fine. We can spare one.
I look him over, looking for any type of if his dress has the look of someone who's been in the woods, someone who's a ranger type or a woodsman or any type of thing, as I think that's going to be more important than whether he is super fast or whether he is a great fighter. We know the beasts in the area are extremely powerful and scary, and I'd rather not see him die to a wolf on the way there.
Well, and you see that his armor is and clothing is built for a tracker, and you see this as he's removing it and throwing it on the ground to perhaps increase his speed. He moves over to the statue of Bell Red, which is right next to where you are, basically, and he looks up at the makeshift face of Bell Red, staring up at the crimson leaves with a solemn face, and he takes one of those 12 gold coins that you just handed him, and he sets it on the base of the statue, pockets the other 11, and looks at you and says, "Is there anything else before I go?"
Give us your name, runner.
Did you want to name him Wolfgang?
Sure. His name is Manfred.
Manfred. Excellent. Manfred, son of Mormon. And Mormon is a really prominent name in the South, and so this person is clearly not from this region. But Manfred does say, "And I was the fastest in my class. I will reach Maricor before the host arrives. I promise you."
Be safe. Travel quick.
Always. And without a second glance, he turns around and runs over the bridge. Well, actually, he runs toward the trench. And we'll say that that bridge is a metal kind of, maybe perhaps an iron plank that is liftable through multiple people, and then almost like a makeshift drawbridge. So he runs across it, and then they remove it. Something I didn't mention earlier that is going to be useful for defense is that the bridge can be removed. But he takes off into the woods, and it's not long before he disappears there. 5 days and counting. What would you three like to do to prepare Outpost Red? I'll just share this rudimentary map one more time from Paint. This is, I like to call this piece Untitled, is my current. And so what would you three like to do? We'll start from my left to right with Roland. What do you think? What do you want to do to help fortify this place?
Oh boy. Okay, so this kind of depends on what the other guys are going to do. But which direction did the dwarfs say come from again?
It seems like they are coming from the north.
Okay, perfect.
From the top that way.
So what I would like to do is start to try to set up traps and tripwires in the woods.
Ah, nice. Okay, so what kind of traps you thinking?
So let's see, like pit digging and covering the pits up, like spiked pits with leaves and coverings, tripwires, any number of like small palisaded, like small spiked wooden walls that are just kind of in places that are blind corners around trees. If somebody was going to be coming around, they might accidentally run their horse into it. Sorry, horse.
Yep. So like spike traps, pits, excellent. The ultimate goal is to thin the herd before they even reach you. Give them a reason to turn back, as you said earlier. Traps, spikes, pits, love it. And you begin getting a squad of people to work, and they are digging and hacking. And you notice as you're chopping down these trees of the crimson wood, you notice that they very, very quickly begin to grow back. Almost, it's insanely magical. You pull a weed in the ground, and there it is again. This place will not let you destroy it. And these trees are hard to chop down. It's not easy. So, continuing from my left to right, Equus.
Seeing Roland taking care of the traps and pushing the trees as far back as from the palisade as possible, I will move towards the back end of our defenses, where we're probably least likely to get attacked at first. How quickly can the drawbridge move back and forth?
So this drawbridge is basically just a plank that can be lifted and moved. So I imagine it can be done very, very quickly. It is heavy, so it'll take multiple people, but it can be done pretty quickly.
Okay. Yeah, I think that with whatever wood that we can possibly get with the group of men and women that I have with me, we're going to create a line of spikes on the near side, on the interior side of the pit that are facing outward. So if they try to jump across the pit, they're going to have to deal with the spikes on the way through.
Oh, that's a great idea. Okay, cool. So we'll do I'll draw it in a different way. Little spike traps, or little, not even traps, but just blatant spikes all along kind of this area.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Basically so that we have cover from them as they're coming towards us, and they have to deal with that. And they can't just leap across the pit. I don't know how wide the pit is.
Yep. Yeah. So the width isn't really good here on the map, but they will. It seems like it was dug so they'd have to jump into it and then climb their way out. And so,
Okay.
and actually, there are a bunch of traps already at the bottom of the pit. You know, it was meant to defend the outpost from the monsters of the forest. Really, it was. You know, so it's filled with wolves and sometimes innocent animals like biostags and other different creatures that accidentally or through malicious intent fell into this trench and met their final doom.
And yeah, so once they get the spike set up, which obviously half of that's probably already done, I'm just going to look at the water. I mean, do we have any boats? Are there canoes? Is there anything that's been used in this area for
No, and in
fishing?
fact, no. And the reason is because despite the magical warmth of the forest, it's still, there's a magic of the winter that just cannot be beaten. And currently, this whole river is frozen solid. As you look out over the river, you see the water is underneath it, and you kind of see some ice flow moving and shifting. But by nightfall, it will again be frozen solid, unless you do something about that.
Yeah. I
now
turned
here's
to
oh yeah, I
Wolfgang.
was gonna say you turned to
Yeah,
Wolfgang.
I turned to Wolfgang, and I'm
something?
like, "What can you do with this?"
Pressure's on, Wolfgang. What are you gonna do? You gonna make it so more people can stand on that palisade, or are you gonna do something with that river?
So, well, my first thought is to the people that won't be combatants, keeping them safe. What kind of inner buildings do we have? Do we have quite a few inside buildings, and also as a fallback point, um, if if something is overrun, it would be nice. We might need to be hiding in buildings. That's basically the idea.
Yeah, absolutely.
Women and children in buildings.
Almost everything here is tents, but there are some buildings and scaffolding and some little huts that were constructed. There are two large buildings here. One of them, this one up on the northern side near the palisade, is kind of the armory. It's where you'll keep all your weapons and whatnot. This larger building is the dining area. It's got little sleeping arrangements, little cots. It's got your kitchen. It's got tables everywhere where people would usually sit and eat. And so it's up to you actually where you want to keep the innocents.
Okay. I my first thought would be the bigger building would be better to keep the innocents and as the fallback point. If we all meet in the big building as a last stand, it's going to be our best chance of defending it if we're that overrun. If you guys are not in disagreement, I would think that would be our best spot. As for the water, I would like to have one of our numerous soldiers test that ice to see if it can be broken, and maybe break it up to make it thinner, so it still appears frozen and walkable, but not so much in certain sections. As a backup plan, if that does not work, rope and tripwires could very well do the trick. Something we can pull on to trip a bunch of people, making it more difficult to get up off the ice if they are attempting to attack us from that position.
So it seems as if the first trick will perhaps work. You see some people move out onto the ice, and you can see that it stays solid, but that if they keep kind of breaking it up in certain ways and just keep it moving a little bit from your end, then it seems like this frozen solid river quickly, it stays in its state. You can walk on it, but it looks a lot more solid than it actually is. And so we'll go ahead and give me a d20 roll, and let me know what you get. And you can roll with advantage because there are a lot of people here who are pretty They've been around the Crimson Wood. They know how the Ream River works. They understand the way that the magical forest ticks.
All right. Well, I got it. 18 with advantage.
Excellent. You stare over this frozen solid river, and a smirk might crease your lips as you view a successful defensive position. It's far more defendable than it seems. And so just to remind myself, I'm going to take these lines just to show that they're actually, anyone who crosses that is going to encounter some trouble. This right here, by the way, this is the best map you've ever seen. I don't know if you knew that, but this is the most detailed and professional looking map you've ever seen. And it's not for sale.
It's legit about 8 steps above any map I've ever made. So,
Dude, I had 18% to go on my Photoshop update, so you get Microsoft Paint. You get one more thing that all of you decide on. You can do anything.
Personally, my recommendation would be build up our northern palisade and create some more standing platforms so that we can have a volley of riflemen. Any that we don't have, have a few posted in the trees as kind of snipers, but have just a big volley within the gates. But that's my 2 cents.
Equus, what are your thoughts?
Well, two thoughts. One is the Innocence Building, which is the Protectorate area. I think should also double as a medic tent. All the injured should be pulled there if they're out of danger. As as an add-on to that, I would say that the armory should be pillaged and all the weapons passed out to whoever can use them, whoever's competent with them. And I mean, I think that the amount of people that we have with the amount of work, I'm not sure that, building with the palisade is definitely worth doing. How much we can get done in this shorter time is limited by the manpower that we have. It might be useful to set up, instead of leaving the palisade the way it is, taking that type of energy that we were going to use to fix that up and maybe make secondary fallback positions. When you're fighting with riflemen, you want to just keep moving back away from the horde as they come forward. And I don't think the palisade's going to last that long once they break through. Having secondary positions where the men can move and split up will probably be a better use of our time for building anyways.
I agree. My one thought would be if there's a way to force them to attack a position that is better defended than the other. Looking at our defenses, the palisade is a tall wall, correct?
Yes, the palisade is a tall wall. You're looking at about 16 to 20 feet tall. It's forged from the trees themselves, and these trees grow very tall.
So if I'm an army, I'm definitely going around this short stint to attack our weaker side. Can the riflemen shoot from the palisades over the trench? What kind of distances are we talking in the fort?
You look over the trench and you see very quickly beyond the trench, you see the Crimson Wood. It's a very small clearing, and the clearing ends almost immediately once you leave the outpost. And so you know that you can fire and you will hit the Crimson Wood. Anything that appears out of the forest is in danger of your fire volleys, especially in the southeastern, on the other side of that trench.
Awesome.
You have one person speak up. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no.
You hear Roland speak up, actually. Oh, was that Roland or was that you, Equus?
No, I think we both clicked at the same time. We were both going to talk. I was just after learning the ranges of the rifles, which Equus has no idea how to use. He pulls back and says, maybe then fortifying the palisade might be more important. Keeping that height advantage where they can shoot both directions is more important than having fallback positions. Any linemen that we have can deal with that. Got to keep the riflemen up high where they can take out any opponents.
Agreed. I'm not any good at a distance, so I think we should keep the people that are as protected as we can, and height tends to give an advantage.
Completely agree.
Some nods from some less senior people in the outpost as they begin work. It's a toiling and long 5 days. Every moment, it's like you can feel the bearing of death upon you. You don't know what's coming. On day 3, you maybe hope, oh, man, let's hope you made it to Maricor. As that son of Moriman, perhaps not. Let me turn this off. Is there anything else that anybody would like to do to this fortress? You got the one thing. Where are you going to be setting up? If you decided that you're going to be doing, you decided that you're going to be adding these elevation spots. Oops, wrong color, right? So I think that you can probably extend this way or to the right if you decide a little bit too. It's completely up to you guys.
It's not on the screen anymore for me.
Yeah, you get a screen share, buddy.
Oh, sorry. What is that? And it's got to be that shape too. It's got to be weirdly oblong on this side.
Well,
is it possible to build like a small little wall on the inside of it too, like a little bit of cover for the people up there?
Absolutely. It's not when you're up here. We're just going to assume that there's maybe another, 4 to 5 feet or something in front of you. That it's almost like a scaffolding on the inside of the wall, not necessarily a platform on the very top. So yeah, you'll be able to shoot from cover. How does that position look though? Does that look okay there?
Yeah, that looks perfect. Nice view of everything.
Excellent. And I'm also going to assume that there are traps on this side too, Roland. Up here, so you've got this whole northern area covered. I'm gonna be straight with you. I don't want to take a lot of breaks during this game. When we get started, when the fight comes, that's when the fight's gonna come, and we're just gonna run through it till the very end. And so we're gonna front load our break, and I'm gonna take 5 minutes right now, and I'm gonna go hug my wife and tell her that that you're all about to experience something just lovely. It's just going to be lovely. But yeah, we're going to take a 5-minute break. Come on back here, and we'll finish this battle. It's looking to be good. I'm really excited at the surprises you guys are already throwing at me. All right, we'll be right back.
Dun dun dun. Yeah. It would be all of them that died. Yep. Everyone who died.
All right, I'm back.
Taking bets, though.
All right, we should,
Who's the first player to die? What do you guys think?
Oh, I'm totally gonna
probably, yeah, probably me actually. Well, maybe you. You're a rogue, but I was thinking me just because I took a pre-gen character because I kind of like just forcing myself into a bunch of choices I didn't make. And this has the personality trait you can stare down a hellhound without flinching, which to me translates to overconfidence in my ability.
I'm gonna
I
change my
like
vote to
that.
you.
I like that you took a positive trait and you were like, "Oh no, this has got some flaws to it too."
Oh hell yeah, flaws are way more fun.
They are a lot of fun. Oh, all right. So let's see. I don't know. Let's see how this goes.
Chat's looking for a TPK, so that's good.
I know everyone. You know what? Everyone always roots for the GM.
Yeah.
It's kind of
It's fun,
it's
though.
a little sad. I agree. All right. The Crimson Wood is a dangerous place. To cross it would be like crossing the highest mountains. You're risking death by the elements as much as you are by the beasts or by the enemy. And so it is when Corin Colossus herself, it is when she emerges from the forest. That's when you feel the power. It's not the hours leading up to that moment when you can hear them. When you can hear the hundreds and hundreds, maybe more, footsteps approaching from miles away, Outpost Red. But almost as if it begins to frighten you because this loud droning of footsteps on the distance, you begin to hear it to the east and to the west and to the south also. But it's almost like it's a very strange sound approaching you. It's almost like you'll hear it over here and then it'll go over here. It's very peculiar. Anybody who wants to roll a perception or something, they can check on that. But the sound grows and grows and grows and grows and grows until it stops almost immediately. As soon as it stops, you hear a flock of some sort of vulture dispersing up into the skies that you cannot see. It should be known that for the remainder of this battle, those vultures, you'll continue hearing them high up above. It is when Corin Colossus herself emerges from the forest that you realize that your enemy looks more noble than you might have thought. She steps forward, one of the dwarves of Astracor. Pale and gaunt features, calloused features. These dwarves could not find life on the frozen surface, and so they found it underneath. You see her step forward, broad-shouldered, clutching at a large spear. Who is the first person that she sees? Who is standing on the newly created parapet on the northern palisade?
I would probably have a position up there being I have a short bow and don't like to get my hands as dirty as these two gentlemen. So that would be my position.
Awesome.
Wolfgang.
You stand. Wolfgang. Este kokona ste. Aprokaktea. In the words of the dwarves of Sur Salin. You hear, your name is known in the south, outsider. She looks to the other people in the palisade. Oshtikanlatunda, we head for Myra. The outsiders have taken the city. They have murdered our kin. We seek the refuge of this outpost permanently. From here we will make our way to Myra. We are no enemy of yours. And she kind of cringes, though, as she says that, looking up at you, not native to Sur Salin. So please, allow us to take residence here, and we will move on.
I look down at her and kind of look around me and and try to plead with her, try to reason with her. This place, it has no importance for you. The people here are mostly refugees and children, scraping by, trying to survive.
She brings up her calloused hands, says, scraping by. She stares at her hands. You make a mistake here. We are those with nothing left to lose. Our home, we plan to never see again, though we will not soon forget it. Where we are going, they will not soon forget us. We are the creators and the destroyed alike. I will give you one last chance. Surrender now, and we will harm none of you. We will leave a small contingent here before we move on to Myra. She takes a deep breath and awaits your words. At this moment, you kind of maybe look around you, all of you, and you'll see some civilians near you. And some of these people are from Myra. Some of these people are elves from Myra. Sworn enemies, you know, there are all sorts here. And many, almost all, would stand to lose quite a bit if this place were taken.
I whisper, well, not whisper, I yell out, Commander Wolfgang, and then kind of just shrug and look up at him since I'm just underneath the parapet where he's standing, to get his attention. When he looks down, I kind of look up. I'm like, maybe buy us some time, get us a day or something. They can camp outside while we decide. Give us a day or something. Give our runner more time.
I'll nod, give him the thumbs up, and turn back towards Korn, the Colossus, and say, this place is in shambles. It is not fit to receive one such as yourself. You must give us a day. We will spruce up the place a bit, make room for you and your army.
Roll deception. She stares you up and down as your words reverberate deadly off of the leaves. She throws a hot stogie into the ground and steps on it. One day. Were we to have one day? One day in the forest for me means hundreds of lives. No. Behind me, my friends, is a great host, and as soon as she says that, you hear the most horrifying sound, and you hear anguish and screaming of her fellow kin as they are moving forward into the traps that Roland had set, and you just hear just blood-curdling screams from all around. And she, in her shocked gaze, looks back.
Roland screams fire. As soon as he hears the screaming, he just yells out, "Fire all weapons!" And yeah.
Well, you know, Corin Colossus is really the only one standing before you, and I feel like it would be unfair of me to insinuate that you'd at all miss. And so Corin looks back in the direction of her kin, and her heart hurts. You scream the word fire, and she looks back up to you. And in her last moment, she realizes that when paths cross, some paths end. And today it was hers. Many, many, many bullets from these muskets just fly through her armor. No question. You see blood stain the ground. You see wood pop off of trees left and right as the volley is fired. You see her fall to one knee. In her last breath, she removes her helmet. Just a decorative more than anything. Speaks a silent prayer to the sky and says, "Give my best to my brother Gabo." And she falls to the earth. The sound of anguish slowly but surely becomes an organized sound of exasperation and reorganization. Though you know you've slowed them down. You've diminished the numbers. These, however many they brought, those traps, those did the work that you expected them to do. But then all of a sudden the footsteps pick up one more time. And they're all around you. Everyone, roll perception. Someone roll perception. To the north, barking orders in some dwarvish tongue. But to the south, only footsteps. Roland, you're no stranger to illusion. How do you feel about magic, though? Or magic users in general?
You cut out there for just a second. I'm sorry. What was the beginning of that?
Oh, no problem. No problem. How do you? It was you're no stranger to illusion. The illusory magics, though you might wish you were. Magic is a rarity here, and those who have it are oftentimes scary. How does Roland feel about magic and magic users in this realm?
There's a reason that he's learned nothing of the arcane arts. He was a soldier, he was a grunt, and he was one of very few survivors of a battle where magic was wielded to devastating effect. And he ever since then, he was originally very interested in it and thought he would become a wizard or something, but then he ended up drafted into an army and saw what it did, so he decided never to touch it. So recognizing it is one of the few things that might give him a little bit of pause.
Ah, yes. The Battle of Adrian Pass. The first time arcane weapons were utilized on both sides. You breathe a sigh of relief, knowing that might not be the case here. But the magic persists, and it's almost like as soon as you realize, wait, no, these footsteps behind me and to the side, these are fake. These are illusions. This isn't real. This is to throw us off. As soon as that occurs to you, it's almost like they go away. It's almost like once you see behind the curtain's drawn completely.
And I scream to everyone else, focus to the north! The southern footsteps are a lie!
They do so after a moment of confusion. They absolutely do so. And after an even longer moment, the footsteps dissipate behind, after they've dissipated in the back, in the rear, on the sides. They pick up to the north. Hefty, hefty footsteps. You hear, in the calm before the storm, you hear the rain patting on the trees above, though it's not touching you. Rain or hail, can't be too sure. But you also hear loud clangs of steel. Loud bangs on metal on metal. The beasts of the Crimson Wood cannot be tamed by anyone, but they can be captured and starved and famished. You hear the sounds of wolves. You hear the sounds of beasts. Screeching of myriad of vicious creatures with myriad teeth. And they begin getting closer and closer and closer until emerging out of the forest itself is a squadron of beasts that have been let loose on Outpost Red. Everybody roll initiative. All right, so Roland, you're going to be going first, followed by me, followed by Equus, and lastly, Wolfgang. Roland, you see this massive group of monsters just emerge from the forest, and imagine monsters of all varieties. Not monsters per se, but beasts, really wild beasts. I think you might be muted. I'm not sure if you're talking. Oh, there.
So Roland looks back towards where we keep our food stores. About how far is that away from the palisade where I'm kind of holed up?
I imagine that it's not. I mean, the outpost is pretty large, and I imagine it's where you're keeping the innocents. So it might take a moment to get down from the palisade over into the building and then do what you want to do.
Okay. Yeah, Roland doesn't have any ability to, he doesn't really have any good ranged weaponry. And he just quickly decides to try to at least pull some of these beasts off. And if hunger is their main motivator, he's going to run to start trying to make his way over to the food tent and see if he can pull some sort of raw meat out and just start. His eventual goal is going to be to start just chucking some meat over the edge to kind of pull them off of wherever they're trying to break through.
Excellent. You make your way towards the food storehouse, perhaps telling people your plan. Get meat, something like that. So if Roland is off the palisade, Wolfgang and Equus are both there, or are you going to position yourself elsewhere?
I'm actually under the underneath the palisade by the door.
Excellent. No, hold on one second. There is no gate on this wall.
Oh, there's no gate? No central point?
No gate.
Oh, then
No
I'm just
gate.
actually just standing under wherever Wolfgang was. That's pretty much the position I was in, not being on the wall.
Excellent. Cool. Awesome. So the first thing you see if you're standing under is rammed up against the palisade is this massive chimpanzee that's just screaming through the wooden slits, and you see its fangs, and you feel its spit as it collides with your face, and it begins climbing up the wall. And it finds it very, very difficult to climb up the wall, though. It begins slipping. It's not the only beast that's doing so, but these things, some of them can climb, clearly, but it won't reach the top yet. It's a very slick palisade. Next up, Equus. You see this happen right in front of you. What do you do? Oh, you're muted.
I step back, lunging back from this massive creature that startles me. Drawing my blade, I lunge forward, just trying to punch it straight through the creature's chest as it's climbing up the palisade, through the walls, through the individual pieces of wood. At the same time, I scream out, "Fire! Even creatures who are dying of hunger will flee from fire. Toss the braziers, throw torches." And then I will try to hit him. Oh, nah. I rolled an 8. So I miss. So my blade goes wide, bouncing off the wooden palisade, deflected to the side.
Go ahead and roll an attack for the people that are directly under your control. We'll assume that everyone's kind of got their own group.
They rolled a 19.
A cloud of smoke emerges from the top of the palisade as 4 rifles are fired immediately. The chimpanzee is filled with 3 bullets, and it falls back down to the ground. And a couple wolves that were trying to scratch their way up the palisade turn to it and just feed on it. This dead piece of meat on the ground. Job well done, Wolfgang.
So I see these animals. I see these creatures climbing up this palisade wall, and I'm reminded that I have a flask of oil at my belt. So I pull said flask of oil and sprinkle it along the palisade, trying to make it slippery and flammable if it becomes necessary.
Excellent. The oil drips down the palisade walls, and the first thing you see is what looks, actually, give me a nature roll. Let's see. As the oil drips down the palisade. Did you say an 8 or an 18?
20 total.
Oh, 20 total, huh? You've never seen a velociraptor in person, and you're not entirely sure how one could possibly be captured by anybody, especially now that its drool is washing down its reptilian-like features, and its eyes unblinkingly attempt to scramble up the palisade. It almost gets there. Its deep and long claws embedding themselves into the wood, but it will not arrive until the next turn instead of this one. You see as it falls down, slips down the palisade. Roland.
So I'm just still probably yelling to the people, probably most of the way back to the large encampment now, and hoping that someone is coming out with some meat to greet me, so that I can at least try to contribute to this phase of the battle.
Yes, the meat quantity is rather low, just because the last 5 days have been all work and labor in preparing the fortress and not necessarily doing anything else. But there is some meat right inside the food, or where the innocents are. And as you burst in the door, you see just crowds of people, like scared, begin to cower as the sound of the door reverberates off the walls. And once they see you, they lighten up a little bit, and they kind of release their children. Once you ask for meat, it's provided for you, and people who can help you carry all of the troops.
I would point out the 3 most able-bodied looking people with the strongest arms. It's like, I need you throwing meat. Come on. Just pull them back with no explanation of that.
You get confusing looks, but they know better than anyone to just follow their orders. The velociraptor almost reaches the top of the palisade, Wolfgang, and you see you're face to face with this thing almost. You have a velociraptor, a chimpanzee, and what looks to be some mad-clawed hyena mixed with like a shaved bear. It's just this vicious, ferocious-looking black-furred monster that is approaching the palisade as well. But instead of climbing up, it goes to pull the palisade apart with its brawn. And it's having a lot of trouble with that. You can see as it's yanking once after another, and it just can't get through. Equus.
This time, Equus is prepared. He's not afraid of the creature slamming up against the wall. And he lunges forward with his blade, trying to bury it deep in its chest as it pulls the wood apart.
Excellent.
Oh, and that 20. Yes,
describe to me how you kill this thing through the palisade.
This time knowing exactly how to strike and knowing that an overhead blow will finish most creatures off. He brings his blade up and with as much force as he can possibly generate, brings it down on top of the creature's head, cleaving it in two, and then drawing it out, kicking out with his foot, knocking the creature back into the others that are coming forward. And then there's that snap of the wood just kind of collapses on itself as it just had the stretchiness of it had pulled it back together.
Excellent. Yes, the structural integrity remains of the palisade as you finish off this foe. One thing I have not been asking for a while is there anything else you'd like to do? And I probably should say that.
Positionally, personally, I'm in Equus is in a good spot. He's not sure what Roland was doing at first, but now he kind of understands what he's trying to do, distract him with food. So he's going to stay there, and as long as Wolfgang is above me, I'm going to stay in this position and guard his lower end, his backside, as it was.
Awesome. And you position yourself guarding exactly as you described. And Wolfgang, it's your turn as you see kind of Roland and a few other people approaching with barrels and troughs of meat.
So these things are climbing up, and there more than one of them, correct? So they're getting close to the top. They're like right there on the edge. All right.
Yeah, the main ones that are getting close to the top were the three that I named. The others are, trying to work their way up. But those are the three main ones, and two of them have already kind of been dispatched by your friends.
Awesome. Then the palisade seems to be doing a good job of keeping the creatures out for now. They don't seem like they have the intelligent capacity to go around, so they're kind of throwing themselves at this palisade. So I'm going to instruct the riflemen that are there to wait for a good shot. So they're not just shooting just randomly. Conserve those shots, fire well. When they're at any climbing creatures, they get too close. When they get close, point blank range, shoot them then. And I'm going to do the same. I'm going to pull my bow and be ready to shoot. If I can shoot it and give commands, can I get a shot off as well?
Absolutely. And actually, the velociraptor leaps over the top of the palisade and is right there in front of you.
He's right there in front of me. If that's the case, then I will forego the bow and pull out my rapier because it's a melee weapon.
Nice.
And I reach to grab the hilt of the rapier, and it's been 40 years since I last touched this. Wolfgang is not a young man. Wolfgang is mostly gray. He's getting on in age, and to be quite honest, never found much interest in the martial combat. Was somewhat talented, but he pulls his rapier and instinctively stabs at this thing's eye. With a, because I'm a noob, a
Time
14.
slows down to 14. 14, you say? Roll damage.
So
the rapier. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. So the rapier easily plunges into this velociraptor's skin, piercing it in the cheek. Not quite a good enough shot to get him in the eyeball. And it's a feeling that Roland has never experienced, doing actual damage with a weapon. His training was strictly fencing and classes. And pushes with all his might for a total of 9 damage.
The scream that emerges from the maw of this vicious dinosaur is almost deafening. But the rapier pierces kind of through the mouth a little bit and around the side of the jaw, completely cleaving the left side of the jaw free. And you'll see the monster's blood kind of spew in the direction that the rapier was sliced outward. It's still there in front of you, but it kind of stumbles down, screeching in agony and pain. Is there anything else you'd like to do?
Try to hide the disgusted look on my face of shock. Just,
you know what, you do so, and you look around you maybe to see if anyone else saw you. But what you see are kind of jubilant people who are realizing, hey, we can do this. This isn't hard, and they're just, this is just like shooting. This is going hunting, and you're getting this chimpanzee. The velociraptor falls down the palisade somewhat. You have a beast that's killed through the palisade itself, these dumb monsters that don't know to go around. And even if they did, they probably wouldn't survive or might not. But it's giving everyone a kind of a morale boost. Smiles are on everyone's faces. There's no more there's no random shots. Everyone just kind of waits, and then boom, all at the same time, orderly and jubilantly. Roland, you arrive with this meat, and you are looking down at everything I've described.
Yeah, so the goal is to throw it as far as I can without getting it too far for them to notice it, basically. I want to pull them off the wall, kind of reduce the burden on the wall, and if I can, keep them healed long enough that when the enemy, the real enemy emerges, they'll have to contend with their own beasts who have just maybe finished up a small meal but are most likely still hungry.
Excellent. The velociraptor particularly appreciates the treat and not having to experience any more pain for it. These animals ferociously and ravenously approach these pockets of meat and pool around them until the meat is completely gone. Almost all of these beasts, after they finish feeding and quiet kind of befalls the field, kind of just depart. Some look up, look around, and they're free and fed. They're back into the woods. There are a couple more that are writhing in agony at the base of the palisade. Roll perception if anyone wants to. Other than that, that's the only sound you really hear, is this kind of squealing and writhing that's happening at the bottom of the palisade. It looks like nice. And it looks like some of these animals you didn't even hit. Some of these animals didn't even get shot or stabbed. They're just kind of writhing around in pain at the base of the palisade. Maybe some shots might have hit them, but some you're sure weren't touched. But then you hear the footsteps. This time, real footsteps coming from the north, and maybe a contingent moving around the east. But you hear them, and what do you do? Hold on.
Roland just yells out, "Ready yourselves!"
Ah. But nobody could be ready for this. All eyes on the crimson wood, waiting for the dwarven host to emerge. Waiting for any sound, any sight, but the first thing you see is the writhing of these creatures stop. 3 creatures in particularly. Near the eastern side of the palisade. A massive explosion sounds right here as the creatures, or what sort of device was planted within them, erupts into flame and explosive debris as this palisade. I'm going to give you a chance. We'll say Equus. I believe this was. Go ahead and give me a D20 roll, and you can add 4 to it, and let me know what you get. This palisade is no mere palisade. This is constructed of the crimson wood itself. But that can't stop the might of alchemy. It might have, but there's oil dripping on the palisade now. The flames take over and erupt along the front of the wall, more stylish than anything else, really. It doesn't necessarily affect anyone behind the wall, but this area here, where I have just circled, has exploded. There's now a gap in the palisade right in this area. And you see the debris come tumbling down from the sky. Pieces of palisade landing in the ground and almost instantaneously digging in roots and growing as trees. Then you hear it. Here they come. The host of Astercore. The host sent to live and fight and die with Kor and Colossus. They weep tears of sadness as they sprint past her body. Their faces painted charcoal black. Their hands calloused, but gripping climbing axes. Army incoming. Roland, wait, are we at the top now? Roland was the last. You know what? We'll start from the top. Roland, you go ahead first.
Okay. Roland looks to the now open hole in their main line of defense, and how tall up is this palisade?
About 16 to 20 feet, probably. Pretty high.
A little too high to jump. So yeah, he'll try to slide down the ladder and start moving over to the gap and pulling his shield out.
Arming yourself. What does your shield look like as you don it in slow motion or whatever?
Yeah, it's kind of a classic kite shield of iron. It's actually unadorned. He's ever since he left the army that he was in, he painted it gray. So it's just a simple iron shield with kind of flaking gray paint. And he'll kind of try to beckon to anyone that looks like they're proficient with more melee weapons rather than rifles to join him and just scream, "No one gets through the wall!"
Ah! You hear the yelling of your men and women arming themselves, ready to go, and they stand in their makeshift phalanx formation as best as a group of outlaws and never-do-wells can do. But you are ready, and you hear as you look through the gap, and you see smoke, and you smell it, and you begin to smell the powder from the muskets, and you begin to feel dripping land on you as the hail, which is melted, is trickling down the crimson wood and now raining down from the canopy of the forest itself, slowly but surely. Clink, 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 as this rain begins to pour and pour and pour. You begin to see the faces of the dwarves moving towards that choke point, that exact spot. And that's exactly what they do. They begin. Your forces clash immediately with the forces of Corrin Colossus, the late Corrin Colossus, right in the choke point. Do me a favor, since well, actually, it's my turn, so we'll do it this way. Hey, something above a 3. Sorry, guys. The battle is loud. The battle is fierce. Dwarves are cut down left to right. The defensible positions that you've set up, even though this choke point was created by an explosive of the enemy, it feels like it's still a very defensible position. Describe to me what it looks like as Roland and his soldiers are cutting down this wave, incoming wave. I think you're muted. Sorry.
Yeah, I realized. Yeah. So rushing to this gap in the wall and pulling his shield, he rallies the people behind him, and he sets up a number on either side of this this gap in the palisade. And as this first group rushes in, he actually lets them get a good 5 feet or so in before commencing the attack. And he smashes into them from both sides, taking the lead by the back, and just a flurry of hacking. And this group sort of just basically converges on the first wave and then tries to pull back a bit.
Equus, you look to your east and you see this massive host moving towards the choke point like it's a hole at the bottom of the bucket that's just filled with water, and you'll see the battle has truly begun. What do you do?
Equus' thoughts were immediately on rush to the hole, plug the hole. But Roland, moving and reacting quicker than him, has moved men into that position. I look to my to the west, basically just to see if there's anything on the ice. And if there's nothing on the ice, then I will move myself and the few men that are with me. I'll go, come, lads, let us engage. Let us back up our brothers in war. And then I grab Thomas by the arm and tell him, go watch the innocents. Make sure no one gets harmed. And then I charge off to plug the hole with Roland.
Yes, the heat of the crimson wood creates a mist. Not only the heat from the crimson wood, but the bodies and the dead and the blood and the sweat and the fierce combat. A fog, a steam is rising from the river itself. You can't quite see behind it, but there's nobody crossing. You for sure that's the case, and it looks safe. You make your way over to the choke point. You make your way over to Roland to join the fight. Wolfgang.
So I see the army converging on this hole that they created. Fairly confident that's where they're going to continue to press the attack. Is that the wall on fire?
Yes, absolutely. It is the wall. This is my fire drawing.
Awesome. I would like to instruct my squad, the firing squad, to continue firing. Take down as many as you can. Build a pile in front of that hole. And I feel, just as a character, Wolfgang is still not quite sure of his abilities in the combat, but the body of Karn Colossus lying in the field, now starting to get rained on, draws my attention, and I'm forced to wonder what someone like that might be carrying that we could find value, maybe turn this battle even more in our favor. And I would like to make my way that way. I assume the fire is preventing me from going that side, So I will have to go down the palisade ladder and attempt to cross our own trap at the river to get around the wall of the backside.
Ah, yes. And you know you're going to have to do this pretty silently, but it shouldn't be too difficult. You see that everyone's making their way toward the choke to the east. You go to the river and roll dexterity as you begin crossing the ice. This ice, as you step on it, shifts. It shifts.
Would this be an acrobatics?
Sure. Yeah, it's a great idea. Skills. What's that? Doesn't take but a mere moment to gain your footing. Push down. Ah, yes. This is a solid piece of ice. Well, if you know how to walk on it. And with just a small shimmy, well, we're going to say that this wall actually extends maybe a little bit outward onto the ice. Not too much, but something to keep them from doing it, obviously. But you're able to find your way on the other side. And concealed by the smoke and the flames, you see a free path on the way to, let me mark it here. Say right there, on the way to Corin Colossus's body. And you can make your way over there if you'd like.
I would definitely like, and I would like to hide or stealth, use my stealth as I do so.
I'll let you take 2 actions, whatever, man. It's fate. That's what we're doing, right? It's fate. Is this Cypher system?
Ooh.
And it's you can actually roll with advantage if you need to because there's so much going on. It's really easy to be sneaky if no one's looking at you here. You find your way over to Corin Colossus and you're standing near her body, but there's something else there. And it looks up at you. And you see a massive winged reptilian beast. A pteranodon of the Crimson Woods staring directly at you with its maw of hundreds of razor-sharp teeth ready. And next, we'll go to Roland. Oh, you might be muted. Oh. Sometimes I have internet issues, and so sometimes people won't load. So, oh, there he is. We got a second one.
He was. Yeah, we get 2 of them now.
No worries. 2 of them. See, he's trying to cheat. He's trying to get 2 turns. No. But actually, and just to be clear, that pteranodon, it couldn't miss you. It was right there. It was feasting on Corin's corpse, basically. So there's, it's right there next to you, Wolfgang. Now, Austin, sorry, Roland, you are in the midst of immense combat at the choke point, at the breach. What do you do?
So, with all of these guys in front of me, and no end in sight to this assault, Roland is just attempting the most violent hacking and slashing that he is able, trying to keep his men together, and kind of trying to pay attention to their positioning, and being aware. He's rather trained in tactics, although I may not be, and so he's doing whatever it is that's a smart thing to do. So he's going to just basically be attacking it, whoever is in front of him, and trying to kind of build that pile of bodies to plug the hole with flesh.
Excellent.
That doesn't sound right.
No, it's great. And you as you begin doing this, you naturally kind of become a unit with your forces. Here's the deal. You're looking left and right, and some of your own have fallen as well. You look left and you see a climbing axe into the rib cage of one of your companions, and the person who swings it immediately gets wrecked by someone's arrow, and then that person gets shot by an arrow from the other side. It's chaos. But as you push the forces back towards the choke, yes, everyone's linked together like some sort of massive phalanx. Heave, heave, pushing them back. Bodies begin rising at the choke point, at the breach, and the dwarves begin having to climb over the top of the bodies in order to get in, slowly but surely. Go ahead and give me a combat roll. Just pretend you're attacking one creature. It's always gonna.
Yeah, that's an 8 to hit.
Yes. The person on your right is a close friend of yours. You've bonded quite a bit over your time here at Outpost Red. What is this person? What is her name?
This is Daria Warmgren.
Nice, Daria Warmgren. And you have some sort of, I don't know, saying that you tell each other. May the force be with you, or keep the swinging arm strong, or something like that. What's the phrase that you say to one another when you're in moments of victory?
Steel on your back, steel in your hand.
She looks to you and she says, "Steel on your back, and steel in your," and then the hand axe is swung, basically eviscerating her, and she falls down, and she's almost immediately replaced by some nameless person you've never met, Roland. Someone who would never support you in the way she did, as a combatant or otherwise. Life is long, death is so short. But, as the great Corn Colossus said, or thought, when paths cross, paths end. And so, the battle continues.
Try to take note of the one that actually swung the axe, trying not to get too emotionally involved just because I'm so built up on adrenaline right now, but still, if possible, I'm going to keep an eye out for that guy as I'm kind of hacking through his friends.
Excellent. And you do so. You see the dwarf with the missing eye, the broad scar down the side of his face. That was him. In fact, he comes directly up to you, Roland, swinging his axe, striking true. The axe hits you directly in the side. You take 4 points of damage. You feel the pain sting and jolt through your whole body, the nerves connected, and you feel the pain from your toes all the way up to your shoulder and your side. The agony is immense, but instantly gone as the adrenaline of battle overtakes you once again. But there you are, face to face with this one. Let's see, Wolfgang, you are also under attack over at the choke, but tell me how you defend this assault from someone who's holding like this makeshift spear that's been carved out of a white-trunked tree somewhere along the line. Oh, go ahead. How do you defend against the axe attack on you, Wolfgang?
Oh, I'm sorry. Wolfgang has never been attacked for real. He's kind of in shock. His only defense is to hold his rapier out and attempt to parry as best he can. And you
do so quite easily, as best you can. The height advantage is immense in a duel. You know that, to be sure. The Pteranodon is looking directly at you. Wait, Wolfgang. Oh, sorry, my bad. I'm sorry. I didn't mean Wolfgang. I meant Equus. So Equus, you tell me how you defend. Wolfgang, you'll get your moment to maybe defend.
Yeah, I was thinking Wolfgang is dead. He's getting attacked from all sides. Yeah. I wasn't gonna say anything. I was good with
it. So what does it look like when Equus defends against this attack?
Yeah, so as I'm moving forward, raising my shield, pulling the men that are with me to reinforce Roland's side, one of the dwarves steps out, slashing with his I believe you said he had a makeshift stick spear.
Yeah.
He kind of stabs at me. Almost in disbelief, I throw my hand out, my shield side out, and just deflect it aside, and almost give him the quizzical look, the raised eyebrow, like, really? That's what you're bringing? And I just bowl past him, knocking aside my shield, moving towards Roland's side, bringing my men to reinforce what seemed to be kind of an offensive of the dwarves moving forward.
He's flung aside like a stack of sticks. A stack of sticks. Try to say that. The Pteranodon staring directly at you, Wolfgang. You look over and you see Equus fighting at the breach, just barely amidst the smoke, but you'd recognize his silhouette anywhere, and for a moment you think, oh man, that could have been me. And the memory runs through your brain, and for a moment it is you that's swiping around this guy, but no, you're back to reality, and there you are with this dinosaur right in front of you, drooling and beginning to realize that someone has approached its meal. It faces off, squaring against you. What do you do?
I kind of get low. I hold my rapier in front of me, attempting to poke at it if it comes near me. I take like a half a step back, but not too far, trying to remember my training. Although the last person I trained with had another rapier and not near as many teeth.
Yep. So it seems like it's squaring off, and it seems like it's preparing to strike. And Roland, what do you do? I'm assuming that's a ready to action, Wolfgang. So pretty soon you're going to be able to take your turn.
Okay.
All right.
You notice that the bodies are beginning to be stacked high, Roland, and I'll let you know that it's easier and easier to plug this spot up. The flames are beginning to dissipate, but it's these damn illusions. You hear the footsteps for a moment all around, but you ban them from your mind. Yet still, to the southeast, a droning sound, similar to the one you heard from the north.
And this time the droning persists even after shutting my mind to this falseness, and it starts to kind of give me a moment of worry. Still facing off against this thing, this dwarf, this one-eyed dwarf, he kind of shoves it out of his mind for a moment. The sound to the southeast, and focuses squarely on this one-eyed dwarf, and attempts to kind of raise his shield and slice this dwarf right in the gut.
Excellent. His eyes widen as large as saucers. He sees your plan. Say again?
13.
Ah, wow.
So much for those 19s I was rolling.
He maneuvers down with the axe, blood-stained with Daria's own, but he's not quick enough. Tell me how you finalize this dwarf's fate.
So kind of raising the shield, Roland shoves it into him and places it up against him as he rams the sword straight through his gut. And he doesn't say anything, but he just thinks thinks in his mind very briefly for Daria, and just rams the thing through him, and kind of gives a little bit of a twist, trying to make it a little more painful as this guy passes, and then shoves him off with the shield as he like swings his sword back, and he points towards the southeast and says, We'll need a contingent there. Something's coming.
The people look around, look at each other, and a couple grab some more and make their way to the southeast, where the bridge might be if it were there, but it's off to the side. The one-eyed dwarf is cast aside into a pile of bodies to be relegated into the world of numbers instead of names. And you see something emerging from the fog, the smoke, to the southeast. You see a dark mass of dwarves sprinting, screaming their war cries, Ashtikana! 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 Korin Kolasas! And as if they have nothing to live for, they begin diving into the trench. Diving into the trench where the spikes have been laid, puncturing their own selves, dooming themselves to an exhausting and agonizing death, while their companions fall in on top of them, pressing them further into these spikes and these sticks that they have fallen on. Where are you going to set up your defenses here, Equus? Where are you going to be?
Well, after Roland seems to have everything under control here, we'll run right by him. And if the majority of the dwarves are heading towards where that little space is, where the drawbridge is, that's where I will be as the center point. And then I will spread my men off to my right and left, covering anything, running back and forth with long spears, trying to stab anything that tries to move up out of the pit.
Yes. The second battle line. You see, almost as if from the sky, as your two contingents move along the line of the trench, you in the middle, directing them, stabbing downward, mostly putting people out of their misery than anything at this point. But it won't be long until this trench is full of bodies and therefore easily crossable. The Pteranodon strikes forward at you, Wolfgang. What do you do since you are ready for it?
So I have an ability that allows me to force a sneak attack on him. So when he makes that move, I was ready for it. I use my insight against his deception to see if I can make the sneak attack, which would put me at a 17 insight.
Well done.
And make my attack with my rapier. Ooh, definitely.
You feign one direction, and then you move the other way as the Pteranodon misses you with its claws, attempting to grab you. Go ahead and roll damage as you strike.
So as he slides past me, I grip the rapier almost as if it was a knife, less of a sword, and shove it into his belly for 12 damage.
Oh, its wings just emerge outward at its full wingspan, and as if rigor mortis outward, screeching into the sky, biting at nothing, biting at everything. It keels over as you remove the rapier from it, and it kind of doubles over, twitching and writhing in agony, but it's still alive and crawling, scraping onto the ground as it looks up at you, and it will reach out and attempt to grab you. It does so with these claws that embed themselves into your flesh quite weakly. You're only going to take 1 damage from this. The claws are weak, and with the agonizing pain and exhaustion that the Pteranodon clearly is feeling, this confused beast roars in your face as it attempts to take off. Now, go ahead and give me an acrobatics or an athletics saving throw. We'll do a check. That's how you do it. Check.
So as this thing attempts to pull me, I dodge. My loose-fitting armor almost helps me in this instance. As he grabs it, it pulls away from me just enough so he loses his grip.
He does, and rolling over the side, still writhing in agony, it looks to you ferociously, but you actually see glistening in its reptilian eyes down its facial features. This thing is very, very, very much in pain and very close to death. Roland, the bodies have piled high at this choke point, and the dwarves who are crossing it are more and more exhausted. But you look around you, and your people are fewer and fewer. You hear a voice scream from atop the parapets. Are you in? Are you in? Roll perception.
I will. Okay. So I'll first I'll glance over there, see if I can see what's going on the parapets.
For sure. You see multiple people waving, trying to get your attention, holding up rifles, and one person is screaming, "Am you in?" But you can't quite make out the full word in the midst of the furious battle.
Okay,
unless
perfect.
you can.
So have we moved all of the ammo to the big tent, or is it still in the armory?
Your choice.
I'm gonna say that we centralized everything to the big tent. And then
Excellent.
I have an out of character question. Do we have any? Would I know? I guess would I know if we had any like flammable oils or anything of that nature?
So I will say that if you've got it on your character, you can absolutely have it. But also during this game, at any point, you can remember that you have something, or strategically find something in the outpost that is useful but not insane, not ridiculous. But I'll leave that completely up to you.
Okay, I would definitely like to strategically find a couple flasks of oil if possible.
Absolutely.
In the tent with the innocents and the ammo. Because what I'm going to do, what Roland will do is, after screaming to the people with him to hold this position, he's going to sprint back towards the tent and try to get some of the people inside to distribute ammunition and gather the oil for the trenches.
They nod with smiles on their faces, and they begin doing as you command, and maneuvering over to the trenches, which are slowly but surely filling up with body after body after body. You see, as you look over their Equus, as you look down into the trench, that many of these dwarves have packs that they've tossed over their back that are made of nothing but thick cloth and straw, and they're just big, kind of not heavy, but just big, bulky bags. And these are doing a lot to help pad the bottom of the trench and fill it up. And you begin to see the dwarves plan. A dwarf claws its way out of the trench, or begins to claw its way out of the trench, and another spear comes rising up to meet you there, Equus. Tell me how you avoid getting stabbed by
it. Having the height advantage.
Yeah,
I sort of move to the side. Once again, just putting my kite shield face forward. The shadow horseman motif just playing out in front of me as I just knock it aside. Just kind of almost just growl ferally at it, go, just trying to push him away from me, just scare him.
Oh yeah, you do so, and he falls back in, and from the wounds of the spikes, it's clear that you've bested this one. The others, however, you see more dwarves kind of maneuvering around the back, but you see something, Equus, that one thing that will disturb you is that many of these dwarves are moving towards the river. It might disturb you, but it also is, comforting to know that you've defended that position. The thing that's truly comforting, though, is that you can look at the back of the line and see the dwarves in the back. It's not an endless mass anymore. Needless to be said, it seems that time has flown by over the course of this battle, but you can see your breath. It's in the middle of the night. You can tell this battle has gone on for hours as the fallen have slowly but surely risen. Wolfgang has been duking it out with a pterodon for 5 hours. No. But you see these dwarves kind of maneuver towards the river. And Equus, it's actually your turn.
So trusting, knowing that there's three of us, there's three commanders, one plugging the hole, I'm covering the southeast. I'm assuming that our other commander is covering the west. So I will let that go, just nod, keeping an idea that, yes, they're heading towards the water, but surely Wolfgang will take care of that. And I will continue to defend my position, making sure that none of these dwarves climb out of the hole. Or if they do, they have enough time just to take their last breath as they're pushed back into the hole.
Excellent. Excellent, excellent. Wolfgang, you see this weeping, pitiful creature attempting to step away from you, you terrifying old man.
So I see the creature backing away, and I let it go because it doesn't. Not out of pity, but out of necessity. I'm in a hurry. I feel like I've been away from combat too long, away from the main action, dealing with this. The confrontation with it really shook me out of the fog of war that I was starting to allow to come to actually overtake me. As I shake myself out of it, I check the body of Corn the Colossus to see if she did have anything, or he did have anything of value that we could use to our advantage.
Sure, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Oh, nice. And okay. Corin Colossus has a few trinkets on her, not too much, but the most prized possession, it seems, is this bold and beautifully crafted crossbow, where green leaves are actually still sprouting from it. Not green, sorry, red. This is a living crossbow. The central handle has been organically formed into a comfortable, natural grip, and forged from the forest itself. Hidden in the back of Corin's cloak, as you pull it out, it is as perfect as the day it was first forged. And there is a strange word on the bottom, and that on the bottom it says Gaia.
So I pick up this crossbow, feeling the rest of the things on her body would not be near as useful at this moment, and feel the weight of it. It feels amazing in my hands, and at this point I have yet to fire a crossbow in my entire life, but I can. It feels natural to me, and I make my way back to the battle by way of the river. And as I approach around the corner near the palisade, can I see the army shifting gears towards making their way towards the river?
Yes, you absolutely can. And if you do, you want to kind of divert your attention there, and you take the
Yes,
river
if
guard.
I can.
Excellent. Absolutely, you move over there, and you see that these dwarves are like testing out the ice, and they seem very comfortable with it. You know, oh, this seems solid. And then they look up and they see you, Wolfgang. One in particular sees you, the one that seems in charge, and he waves. Like actually, I'm going to stop screen sharing so I can show you. Like waves, like if you're waving a flare, like, hey, I'm trying to get your attention over here. In fact, Roland, in the midst of the battle that's kind of winding down where you are, but it looks like your numbers might be just enough to hold them. You glance over and you see this across the field. You see this waving happening kind of beyond this mist. It's almost a silhouette waving, and you see on your side of the river, standing there looking at this waving creature, is Corin Colossus herself, holding a naturally living crossbow made out of red, beautiful leaves, standing there, seemingly facing the dwarves.
Assuming that the people that I've kind of commanded are going to carry out their tasks and fire the trench and distribute the ammunition to the gunners, I would immediately, seeing this, just book it straight towards, like, sword and shield in hand, just running as fast as possible in this like clanking chainmail with these, panting heavily after all of this slashing, just trying to move as quickly as he can over to this somehow risen enemy, who you got to cut off the head if the snake's gonna die.
Absolutely. And you don't know how she got in here, but she is oblivious to you currently, facing the other direction. And you begin your sprint. Equus, you're facing off against a wave of dwarves that is stepping over the bodies of their brethren. Finally, they have reached across the trench, and the fight commences. You immediately see some of your friends cut down by long spears from the bottom, as well as broad axes over the top. This is an elite squad of units that you're fighting against now. But you did, if I show you the map here, have something else up your sleeve that you set up that I did not expect you to do. What would you like to do? Because here's the thing: it's their turn, but their turn is going to be running into your traps. So you tell me what that kind of looks like.
So we're goading them, and as I'm the center point, we're slowly moving back, trying to keep them in the trench, but knowing that eventually they're going to break out. There's no way to stop them once they throw enough dead bodies in there, which is horrific in its own right. We back up, and then sort of on my command, I yell, now! And then our group, my small squad of maybe, 10 or 15 men that are left, men and women, we turn around, take 10 steps back and turn back around. Now we've all passed through where all the spike traps are, and we just draw them in. As they all run forward, they kind of step into the punji sticks and the and the sharpened spikes that are just sticking out, just almost impaling themselves or damaging their legs, where they're easy to finish off with a single spear stroke to the throat. I'm sure some get through, but many of them
actually,
are hurt.
at first, you see a dwarf kind of approach and see the trap and kind of stop, like, oh no, with a look of surprise on her face. But she is rammed into from behind by her fellow brethren that shove her into the spikes. And this happens across the board to multiple enemies, and the resounding success of the trap, to be certain. But there are a couple that break through, and those are the ones that cut down a couple of your friends along the line. You see also, we'll say that Wolfgang, you see this dwarf waving towards you, and then pointing further towards the west. And you might not be sure what that means. I'm not even sure I know what that means yet. But you see that it is now Equus after watching this onslaught. Hey, I got to do what I got to do, wild picks. But you see this onslaught running into these pikes, and now it is your turn.
So my plan was to call my troops and have them focus their attention on the river as I walk onto the river itself. I have no idea what. I assume that I look like Corin, so I'm going to assume that I'm me, and this dwarf who's flailing his arms at me. As I step onto the ice, I'm going to shoot at him with this crossbow that I just acquired. It looks like he's like, yeah, shoot me.
Perfect.
So I'm totally shooting at him.
Do it.
And I have a +5 with crossbows, which gives me a 21.
You see this waving silhouette that falls immediately into the ice, and it's such a hard fall that you see a sploosh as the ice underneath this dwarf collapses, and then like 9 additional fall in afterwards into this freezing, frigid water, always cold, always near frozen at the very least, always in the shade. And so this water is not to be trifled with. Go ahead and give me a perception roll, Roland, just to see if you can kind of catch that. Nice.
No, I am just like, eyes are on her. I just assumed that she just shot at one of my friends.
Yep, you've got fury in your eyes, sprinting forward, and it is currently your turn. So you reach Wolfgang Corn Colossus and have advantage on your attack if that's what you do. You do what you want.
Well, if she's standing out near the ice, I want to just shove her out onto the river.
Absolutely. Okay, so go ahead and roll with advantage on your athletics check, while Wolfgang, go ahead and roll on your acrobatics or athletics. It's your choice. Not at disadvantage.
Roll high.
Oh no.
I did roll high, so that's helpful. Which gives me a...
What was it? I missed that. You cut out.
20.
20.
Oh,
I didn't say it actually.
It's a tie. Okay. So, Wolfgang, how do you reverse the grapple, but kind of enter into a grapple with your new opponent? And I'll let you describe it, but the crossbow, it's totally up to you. Can either fly out of your hands into the water or into wherever else, or you can hold on to it. That's totally up to you and your discretion.
So yeah, as I'm blindsided by a person I was starting to call friend. We'd been at this outpost for months together. Just blindsides me and tries to knock me onto the ice. I'm completely shocked. As he pushes me onto the ice. I'm able to grab onto him as well, just well enough to not fall into the ice. The crossbow starts to fall, but I'm able to hold on to it just before it actually falls into the water as well.
Oh, so do you maintain control of the crossbow?
Yes, with one hand.
Excellent. Great. So you are currently kind of grappling with Corin Colossus, Roland. The unkillable. Corin the unkillable.
And yeah, I just bellow, how?
And Wolfgang, you are staring up at your friend, your companion, Roland, is attacking you. And before you can get a word in, you hear a horn blow. Somebody roll a d20 for me. If you get an even number, it's your friends. If you get an odd number, it's not.
All right, I'll you go for it. You go for it. You look like you're gonna roll a quiz.
I'm not gonna roll.
All right, fine.
You fuck it up.
All right. Oh no, it's a 15.
God damn it! Why did you throw?
Shouldn't have had me roll. My die always rolls odd. It rolls well, but it rolls odd.
You see in the distance, the pride and joy of Astracourt. The armored rhinoceros of Sur Salin is a rare sight in these parts, coming this far south, especially a legion of 12 of them. At first you feel somewhat comfortable, as the ice in no way could support the weight of one of these rhinos, but the immense height of these things and the thing that they are dragging, this gargantuan sheet of metal, gotta be 50 feet high, rolling using these. I mean, it dragged like a plow in the field by multiple rhinos slowly but surely into the river. And you begin to see that as this massive plowed sheet of metal begins breaking away the ice and the water begins flowing again, that the sheet of metal, as it crosses all the way across the river, pushed, is beginning to kind of divert the water a little bit towards the outpost. There are two, I will tell you, there's one massive black orb on top of this sheet of metal, and it's not really diverting it too much right now. I mean, the water's going around it, going over the top of it as the ice is breaking. It's very difficult to control a river, obviously, and so it's not an easy sight, and you're not at risk for any flooding in this area yet. But there's some sort of strange orb on top of this sheet of metal that is strange to you. The Equus, the one and only Equus. You are holding the line, my friend. These spikes have held off your enemy, and you begin to feel like victory might be on the horizon, at least for you. Next up after Equus is Wolfgang.
So Wolfgang, after being waylaid by his friend, regains control of this crossbow that he almost dropped into the water and speaks up. Roland, what's going on? Why are you attacking me? Has somebody controlled your mind?
Roland, you hear, Roland, Roland,
and I kind of look around at the ice around us and just like scream back at this thing. How are you alive?
And I want to attempt to disengage from Roland, so he stops attacking me. If I'm not able.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Cool. And you know what, Roland? Is this something you're going to compete against? Or is this what's going through Roland's mind now?
Yeah, Roland's ultimate goal right now is do I see these rhinos coming, right?
You do, and they're kind of trudging slowly. You know, the river's deep, but you definitely see them coming carrying this strange device.
Yeah, so my goal is to hold on to Corin and try to figure out some way to like basically kamikaze. Like I'll take both of us out. Like I'll crush this ice and we'll both fall into the river. There's still enough water to kill both of us. You know, call them off and let the innocents leave, and you can have the camp or something. So basically, that's my eventual goal. Oof. And my roll was a 12 to hold on to him.
And what'd you get there, Wolfgang?
13 total.
So, Corin Colossus breaks free from your grasp. You can actually take a moment to talk to each other if you want.
Yeah. So I'll just. Roland is torn between wanting to know how this thing has come back to life, and just wanting it to stop this assault, and he just kind of growls, "No good will come of this evil necromancy. Call off your assault and let the innocents leave, and I won't have to kill us both."
Wolfgang, go ahead and
Sword to the ice.
I'm sorry. What you're doing? What with the ice?
He puts his sword to the ice, just ready to like pierce it through and try to create more of an unstable platform.
Awesome. And Wolfgang, what's going through your mind? And if you want, you can roll kind of wisdom to kind of determine what's happening, or at least try to piece together what's going on.
Absolutely, yeah. I'll roll an insight check to see if I can figure out what's going on. And I got a 18 on that. So
go ahead.
I'm sorry. So I assume he can't understand me. He's treating me as if it's not me. I try to explain to him, look, I'm not Corin, or why do you keep calling me Corin? So I look at myself. I start looking at my arms and legs. Do I appear to be myself to me, or do I appear to be Corin to me as well?
You appear to be yourself, but it is really strange when you spoke to Roland. You heard as if reverberating from your voice was the same voice, but in a different language. Some arcane mischief is at work here.
I'm not totally unfamiliar with the arcane. I have a background in alchemy. My family is in the Alchemist Guild. That's where they amassed their fortune before it was lost. And so I can assume that it was some sort of magic at hand. I think back to what happened, and the only thing I can think of is this crossbow. So I take the crossbow and toss it to the ground.
You see Wolfgang Engelhardt right in front of you, Roland. Now, actually, I believe it's Roland. I believe it's your turn now. So perfect.
Roland, pulls his sword back and kind of recoils at this, and is still kind of unsure of this, and sees it, but doesn't quite believe it. He says, What have you done now?
And so I'm like, Roland, I've told you like 6 times, it's me.
And Roland looks down at the crossbow, and would a 15 figure out for me what the hell is going on?
You saw him drop it immediately, and immediately appear as himself. So yes, I believe so. In this world of magic, in this magical forest, absolutely. Especially since it was made from one of these trees.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, so he kind of regains his composure for a moment, and then reappraises the situation. Wait, Wolfgang, you looked like Corin when you had that thing. Maybe you can call off the rhinos if you have it. Maybe you can send them back. Maybe you can tell them this isn't worth it. They might think that you're their leader.
This idea kind of hangs on the air, the frozen air, for a moment, until something breaks the silence.
I think you were muted, Wolfgang, when you were talking.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see you talking. Yeah.
That's all right. I didn't say anything important.
Well, I want to hear it anyway.
Oh, I said that was a brilliant idea.
Okay, awesome. So, after you say that was a brilliant idea, that's a brilliant idea. Okay. The explosion sounds from atop the steel plate, and it's driven into the river. The power spent upwards drives this steel sheet so deep into the Ream River and so wide that the water can't help but build up and begin pooling over the side of this area. Slowly but surely, it's going to begin creeping and creeping and creeping, and you begin to realize that there might be no hope here with that piece of steel driven into the river. Unless you can find some way to remove it, this whole outpost is going to be flooded. It is now Equus's turn. As you look around you, and the field before you is littered with the bodies of the enemy, and or those cowards who retreat into the Crimson Wood to be food for the beasts.
I I must have heard the sound of that explosion, and then, you know, obviously all eyes turn to the west, seeing the flood of water just overlapping the edge of where the river normally is, quickly moving towards the Innocents, probably even going into the trench, probably filling in part of the trench with water as it starts just gushing over the edges. I look back, seeing that it's very few people. I mean, there's stragglers. And I tell the men to hold position, kill anything that moves. And I rush towards the Innocent cabin to to start rallying them, to move them, to start getting them moving towards my direction to the east. All the while, sort of looking to the north, like, what happened to my friends? What happened to the defenders of the palisade? What happened to the defenders of the hole? You know, luckily, no dwarves have come in through the hole after Roland had left, and none have tried to climb the palisade since the disappearance of Wolfgang. But as I pass Red Bell, I sort of salute to her and reach into my pouch and just throw all my coins at the statue, just trying to get it at the statue as I run by, heading towards the cabin, the medical cabin.
Perfect. You hear the sound of the coins, the valuables, kind of clang off of the statue. And as you said, you're going into the room where the Innocents are to let them know to move, correct? So you break open the door. Yeah. Awesome. The reverberating sound of the door emanates off all the walls of the building. And again, you see them kind of quiver for a moment. Oh, you know, who is this? But once they see your face, they know that victory is on the wind. But given your news and given the excitement for the upcoming victory, you can tell me how and in what order and where they go to.
Okay, so as of right now, I'm assuming there's very few injured in here, as none of us have had time to bring our injured here. So I gather up those few of them and mixed with the non-combatants and children going out first. But I'm going to surround them with whoever seems like they're able-bodied and able to fight at all. I mean, I don't care if it's with a butcher knife or a stick, anything, and trying to create a circle around them. And then we're going to move towards the east. One big group.
Excellent.
with the children and her in the middle.
Perfect. That's perfect. And you absolutely, looking around, you realize the defenses you have set up have held. They have held off the enemy. And you're almost there. You begin escorting this group to the east, kind of away from the bulk of the battle. The dwarves who were attacking that choke point to the north have either fled into the Crimson Wood or fallen at the hands of your friends, up to and including Roland. But there is some fighting here and there. So go ahead and give me an attack really quick, and I'm just gonna.
17 just with my sword. Yeah. 22
Yes.
total.
Ooh. Okay. All right. So your circle of protected and guards is moving through the battle like a singular force, swiping and slicing and fighting as it goes. And the women and children and old and young in the middle are kind of cowering if they can, swiping if they can with whatever knives, as you said, whatever weapons they have, slowly moving to the east. You find a location to the south of the armory, to the east of the statue of Bel, that you can more safely move them away from the water. It might be, if you can, it might be wise to do something about it, but half of this place might be flooded here pretty soon. Wolfgang.
So Wolfgang sees this flood start, and these creatures had pulled this giant metal wedge, if you will. As he retrieves the crossbow as planned, he looks around at the creatures, where the creatures are, to see if there is someone who's controlling said creatures, a handler, if you will.
Sorry, the rhinos?
Yeah, the rhinos, exactly.
Yes. It seems as if there is a guide who is mounted actually on the rearmost rhino, who is now actually starting to kind of make their way back away from the outpost as the water becomes deeper and deeper.
So Wolfgang would do his best to pretend to be Corin Colossus and yell orders at this handler, telling him to clear this wedge from the river. The fort is won. We must stop it from flooding.
You see a sense of shock upon the mounted, we'll say, animal, the handler, the rhino handler. Go ahead and give me a persuasion roll with advantage, please, considering you're the person.
All right, I rolled a natural 20.
Okay, well, I think that'll be enough.
Yeah.
The salute, forearm over forehead of the dwarf approaches you, and the rhinos begin trying to stampede their way back. And as they jerk, their chains jerk against this plate, it lifts up out of the river slightly, but it takes another one. Boom! Lifts up out of the river slightly, and then one final go. Now, all of that said, there's enough water there that had been held just in the meantime that a massive gush of river will flow outward, and anyone in this area that I'm circling here, go ahead and give me a dexterity saving throw as the water, like a tsunami of frozen death, approaches and engulfs you. Okay. And what did you get? I think, Roland, were you in this area? Or did you leave?
Oh, yeah,
Or is
yeah,
it
I got a 10.
Oh,
Jokingly.
I see. Oh, I see now. Oh, no, and you don't start with inspiration, not in this one. because it's more interesting if your character drowns, Austin. Okay, so
It definitely is.
you're swept. You see Roland, anyone looking at him, as his feet come underneath him. He falls down into the water. Roland, describe to me how this water carries you away.
You're muted.
You're muted.
Away or just to death?
You know what? Austin, I like you. It's your choice.
Okay. So this rush of water, actually, the first thing it does is it starts to flow over this this ice, and as it just kind of explodes over this ice, it starts to shatter as the water starts to pour down this frozen river, and you can see it spidering ahead of him, and he turns to look towards the shore. And he takes about 3 steps as he drops his sword and is just trying to sprint. And as he gets the 3rd step, the ice cracks underneath him as the water rushes to his feet, and it takes him out. And he slams his head on this tiny bit of ice that is still remaining as that shatters too. And he's dragged under unconscious as the weight of his chainmail and the heavy iron shield strapped to his arm pull him down towards the bottom of this frozen river.
You're muted, Barker.
Oh, well, that was so epic too. No, they say that freezing to death is the most painless way to die. But you know that to be untrue. The cold hurts. You dream of this pain. What else do you dream about?
I see Daria Warmgren. She's the first one to greet my dreams as I sort of start to drift into this sort of black, cold unconsciousness. And I think about the surprised look on Corin Colossus's face as the first volley pierced her armor, and despite the cold, despite the pain, this small smile kind of creeps over his face as he drifts down towards this black abyss.
You drift down, smiling unknowingly, and the drifting turns into footsteps, soft footsteps, as you enter into some grand hall. And there she is, Daria, at a table with some myriad other people whose faces you don't know. And she looks to you, younger than she is now. And she motions you over. And that's it. It took a while for the flames to die down. And if it weren't for the rapid movement, the speed of Manfred, the outpost would have been lost into the river. But through the smoke, through the haze, through the dead, through the weeping, through the sounds of reparations and digging and pulling of bodies and burying and everything that goes along with the aftermath, you almost didn't notice as the crimson trees above you are opened by some horrifying fire that spreads it as if it's allergic. And these purple flames force through a massive ship. A swirling gale of wind underneath the ship keeps it aloft. and you begin to see people roping down the sides. Manfred is there on top. Takes a while to catch your breath. There's a moment of quiet. Actually, you know what I'll do? I'll go from left to right for the final two, Equus and Wolfgang. Equus, starting with you, go ahead and describe to me how you are at the end of the battle and where your story in this game, in this one shot, ends.
Equus is standing protectively over the huddled masses of the injured that they've collected as they move that a massive group, not massive, but large group across the field, trying to find any spot where there's not water or dead or some other dwarf coming out of the darkness to attack them, or the flames from the periaps, or the spikes. There's a relief washes over his face, and then immediately he grimaces as he begins to look around frantically, starts patting down everyone that's around him. And then there, finally, he spots Thomas and reaches down and just grabs the lad and just gives him a bear hug, as he's afraid that he had lost track of him in the battle, that this kid that he tried to protect by keeping him away, that if he hadn't run back and pulled everyone out, that he would have been frozen within the icy clutches of the river. And from there, he just sighs, lets out a heavy breath, and sits down for a well-deserved rest as the men and women rappel down from the airship ahead above. And just smiles, not even noticing whether his friends survived or not. That's they're more companions, more people he just kind of met. His concerns are really just from the boy.
And it seems as if Belred herself is smiling, and not so solemnly now. As you look at the smattering of coins that lay upon the foundation of the statue, those that people are forbidden to remove, and you might think to yourself, money well spent. Wolfgang.
Can I add one thing before we do it? Can we say that the coins, the water kind of laps from where it froze, where it hit, but the way the coins had landed almost created like a barrier, that the ice just touched the edges of the coins as if it was like a divine intervention from Red Bell herself.
Oh yeah, I love that. Absolutely, absolutely. They touch it, and like half of the coins are frosted with this icy water, and the other half are just pristine. I love it. Yeah. And it actually, the frost is maybe even climbing up the base of the statue just a little bit, but not quite reaching her feet. Yeah. Just like the battle itself. Whoa. Go ahead, Wolfgang.
So Wolfgang composes himself. The end of the battle ended rather abruptly for him. After commanding the rhino's handlers to stop diverting the river, he was almost transfixed on watching their work when the wall of water came over him and Roland. Wolfgang barely got out of the way in time, and as he stood shaking himself of the water that still splashed on him, the frigid cold water, he sees Roland drifting under, being pulled under the water, reaches out to him. That's just no use. He's already gone, his armor pulling him down quickly. Wolfgang, I look around and I see the battle. It's almost quiet. Moments ago, the battle was raging, a raging inferno of noise, and now things are almost deathly quiet. I look around, take in the sights, and I see the chaos that is the aftermath of this battle. On one side, a wall of fire burning. On the other side, a wall of ice freezing. Death and carnage from humans and dwarves and creatures alike. Something Wolfgang has never experienced. He had read about war and battles in books, but books don't do this justice. Finally taking a moment to breathe as the reinforcements arrive, the airship the airship, the grandest thing that that Wolfgang has probably ever seen was this airship that Roland will not get a chance to see now. And he thinks to himself, he's almost happy, almost jubilant, almost pleasured to the sight of this airship, and then instantly is struck by something he's never really felt before. Guilt. The guilt of surviving such a thing when so many others did not.
Almost jubilant, almost joyful, almost happy. Almost. The bodies lay for some time on the ground. And your vision rests on the body of Corin Colossus. Who is no longer Corin Colossus. Some nobody whose blood you see drip down into the dirt in streams. And then you see everything flip upside down and the blood is moving upward. And then it turns into a small spindly red vine flower sprouting out of blackened ashen earth. And a steel hand reaches down to pluck it, uprooting the blood flower from the ground, placing it into a glass vial. The Warforged, with its yellow eyes, turns to its master and says, "My lord, do we now have enough?" The dark figure, cloak billowing behind him, villain-like, says, "We've always had enough. But now we have something more." And there, sitting on this pedestal, is a white crossbow with crimson leaves. And to the right of it, an even greater prize. Tied, strapped to this device of restraint is a small gnome who just a little while ago jumped into a portal to the Feywild. "But Lord, if you have him here, which gnome is out there?" A smile creases Zero lips. And all fades to dark. Thanks for playing in the Assault on Outpost Red, guys.
Hey, it was our pleasure, man.
Yeah, man. Thanks for GMing.
That was awesome. Thanks for running that.
Thank you guys very much. That was awesome.
That was awesome. 18 months in the making.
18 months, oh man. So thank you, everybody.
It could not have been that long.
Yeah, not only the people watching, but especially you guys for playing. This has been not only 18 months in the making, but also at the last second, it just turned into kind of a roll table game, and I wasn't entirely sure what to expect. The only thing I wanted to happen is I wanted people to charge over the trench and fill it with bodies. That was just a cool image, and the things I didn't see happening were the fire, the explosion that opened the breach, and basically anything you guys did. The traps, that honestly I was going to do like a big old second wave at that breach, Austin, but the traps at the beginning, I was like, that'd be kind of cheating if I did that. So
I'm glad that worked out. Didn't work out
it was
for me,
great.
but it worked out for the Outpost in general. So that's goal achieved.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, if anyone is interested in the player's handout that I oh, I got a bunch of messages. That's weird. If anyone is interested in the player's handbook, player's handout that I handed out to these guys, it's in the video description below. Otherwise, I'm actually now at the very end of this. We're going to go left to right and go ahead and say whatever you want. From the left is Austin.
Well, I just want to say thanks for making this happen. Finally, that was a hell of a lot of fun. I would love to play with any of you guys again. That was a really enjoyable game. I have nothing to plug, so just want to say that was just a real fun game.
Thanks, man. You plugged up the breach pretty well. So, Equus Tenebris,
I'll also say real quick. First time as a battle master, did not use a single superiority attack.
Nice. Nice. That just means I didn't make it difficult enough. Go ahead, John.
John, sorry, yeah.
No, it was my bad.
John, you can find me at Master of Flowers everywhere. Anywhere that's Master of Flowers, that would be me. I play in a lot of games. I don't really upload a lot, but I will point games up when I play them. Besides that, thanks, Barker. Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Austin. You guys were a lot of fun to play with. I was glad to finally get to play this. I was excited.
That was a blast. Thank you. And seriously, thank you for, and this is everybody, just the cool ideas for the battle. When so many of these ideas, one thing I didn't expect, when so many of these ideas came to fruition, the traps and whatnot, it almost seemed too cool to roll dice. And so to me, it was kind of like, if this doesn't work, that defeats the whole purpose of the idea. And so it was really fun to see all the stuff you guys playing kind of pan out in ways that weren't exactly as I thought they would, and probably the same for you guys. So,
it goes to show you, just like, though, if you're playing, you don't have to roll the dice every single time. I'm a fighter, and I don't think I roll maybe 2 or 3 times, if that. But I managed to kill hundreds of men, so I'm happy.
Yep. It was a blast. Steven.
So yeah, I had a great time playing with you guys. It's awesome. Better than I could have hoped, and I had high hopes. It was my first online excursion into a game, so it's definitely the way to get into it. It's been awesome, and yeah, I'd play with any one of you guys again. That'd be awesome. I definitely want to get in on some more online games in the future, not necessarily live, but that was definitely added an element I wasn't used to. Yeah, but yeah, it's been great.
Funny. That's so funny to me that you weren't used to that, because here you are, the master of the overlay and the perfect character image, and you've got your dice tray in like this. What do you like? XSplit sort of corner.
Yeah, I've got the dual camera going.
And you're one of the names from the community that I know. Like I see your posts all the time. Like I'm amazed that you haven't played online before.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've been playing Dungeons and Dragons since I was 16, which is in the Ice Age, way back when. But I play a weekly group with my friends, and I have a family, and it's kind of like for 2 years now, I've been thinking about getting into an online game, wanting to get into an online game, and then I'm like, I don't know. There's always some reason I don't, or there's always something. But I figured, if Barker's running a game,
that was a hell of a kickoff to your online career.
yeah, it's like I can't now. I'm spoiled. I can't go back. So it's only the best for me, man. But yeah.
Oh, geez.
And so that's why I made the overlay. It's my first game. I had to make an appearance, right?
Yeah. You know what? Every game, and this is what I'll close out on, is that every game I learned something that I liked, and I learned something that I should have done differently. Coulda, shoulda, would have done differently. The thing that I liked was the planning before the battle, because there were a lot of stuff that you guys decided to do that I didn't really see coming, and it really changed the battle for sure. And I kind of knew that was going to happen, because I was like, listen, I'm going to give these guys some leeway, and they're going to wreck me. That's probably what's going to happen, because that's what happens when you give your players leeway, is they wreck you. But it was fun. It was a blast. The thing that I might change is make it like So what, like, I don't know, this might be a little too forced, but make it so one of the walls gets breached by the rhinos. Instead of having the rhinos driving the plate, I might make them charge into the palisade and bust it down or something. But there were a lot of these roll tables that I created that a lot of the stuff on here didn't happen. There could have been snipers. We got the dinosaur one. The water supply being redirected, got that one. We didn't get one where the enemy brought forth their riflemen. We didn't get that. They didn't have any, I guess. And
They died in the traps.
They died in the traps. It was that they were the first to go. Put the rifles in front. They'll be the best idea.
The rifles in front. Yeah.
What are we gonna do? We can't use these rifles anymore. These guys died. Yep, the rifles don't work. No. But there are a lot of cool things that I think, oh man, if I go back, maybe I'd throw that in there. But every single one of those is maybe I'd force them to deal with this thing, and that wouldn't have been fun. So thank you guys very much for jumping into this game. This has been an absolute blast. Thank you, Austin. Thank you, John. Thank you, Stephen. And I am excited to see you guys in the community. And until next time, we will absolutely play next time. So thank you, everybody, for watching, and Godspeed.